From international tours to meetings with the most powerful people on Earth, the Queen spent her life at the center of the world stage. Hello and welcome to Royal Scandal. Please do well to like, subscribe, comment and turn on the notification bell so as not to miss out on any news updates. Visiting Australia, 1954. The Queen became the first reigning British monarch to visit the former colony, just 2 years into her reign. She and Prince Philip spent 58 days touring the country. Visiting Nigeria, 1956. The Queen's visit to Nigeria, at the time a British colony, was met with plenty of ceremony, including an official loyal address in the House of Representatives. At the Empire State Building, 1957. For her first visit to New York City, the Queen was met with a ticker tape parade and a tour of what was at the time the tallest building in the world. With President Dwight Eisenhower, 1959. The American president and British monarch met in Montreal for official ceremonies opening the St. Lawrence Seaway. Visiting Ghana, 1961. The former British colony had been independent for 4 years when the Queen visited in 1961 and met with President Kwame Nkrumah, who had been talking with Soviet leaders, leading to fears Ghana might leave the British Commonwealth entirely. The Queen's trip was an effort to solidify that relationship, and she succeeded. Ghana remains a Commonwealth country. Visiting Pakistan, 1961. The ruler of Pakistan until it gained independence in 1947, the Queen accompanied by Prince Philip was met with large crowds when she arrived in Karachi. With John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy, 1961. Kennedy became the second president in the 20th century, after Woodrow Wilson, to have dinner at Buckingham Palace. Visiting Ethiopia, 1965. 10 years after Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie visited Britain to meet with Winston Churchill, the Queen and Prince Philip returned the favor. Meeting with Richard and Pat Nixon, 1970. Prime Minister Edward Heath and the Queen met with the American President and First Lady at the Prime Minister's country retreat, Chequers. Visiting Hong Kong, 1975. She became the first reigning British monarch to visit the then colony. Elizabeth's visit stirs Hong Kong, read the New York Times headline. Visiting Mexico, 1975. An early display of the monarch's fondness for bold colors that help her stand out in a crowd. Meeting First Lady Betty Ford, 1976. President Gerald Ford and his wife Betty hosted the Queen and Prince Philip for a state dinner at the White House on July 7, in honor of the American bicentennial. Visiting New Zealand, 1977. The return trip to New Zealand was part of a larger Commonwealth tour to mark the Queen's Silver Jubilee 25 years on the throne. Visiting Canada, 1978. The Queen became the first reigning monarch to open the Commonwealth Games, which were held in Edmonton, Alberta. Here, she and Prince Philip are greeted by Indigenous people in Saskatchewan as they arrive by train. Visiting Bahrain, 1979. Pictured here in conversation with the Emir of Bahrain, Isa bin Salman Al Khalifa, the Queen toured Gulf states Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman, the first female head of state to ever do so. Meeting Meryl Streep, 1980. At the British premiere of Kramer vs. Kramer, the monarch met with Meryl Streep, who was on her way to winning her first Oscar for her role in the film. Meeting Italian President Sandro Pertini, 1980. During a 7-day state visit to Italy, the Queen and Prince Philip, pictured far right, also met with the Pope and toured Pompeii. Riding horses with Ronald Reagan at Windsor Castle, 1982. The Reagans became the first American president and First Lady ever hosted for a dinner at Windsor Castle. Wrote the New York Times, it is doubtful if Windsor Castle could offer anything more in the way of pomp, circumstance and ceremony than was afforded President and Mrs. Reagan tonight. Meeting Pope John Paul II, 1982. In a 6-day visit to England, Wales, and Scotland, the Pope became the first reigning pontiff to set foot on British soil and to visit the Queen at Buckingham Palace. With Nelson Mandela, 1996. In his first state visit to Britain as the President of South Africa, Mandela stayed in Buckingham Palace as the guest of the Queen, and was greeted by crowds of thousands on the streets of London. Though she had once reportedly called him a terrorist, Mandela also met with former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher during the trip, in a 20-minute private audience at Buckingham Palace. Meeting Barack and Michelle Obama, 2009. The Obamas visited Buckingham Palace just months after Barack's inauguration, as part of a trip that also included the G20 summit in London. With Donald Trump, 2018. Trump famously kept the Queen waiting for the Windsor Castle meeting. With Justin Trudeau, 2018. The Queen hosted a dinner during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, where it was formally determined that Prince Charles would succeed the Queen as the head of the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.